Hello, everyone, and welcome to Flawless, a music podcast. My name is Grant, and I'm joined here today by my two co-hosts, George.
Hello there.
And Liam.
Hello, everybody.
Each episode of Flawless, we propose, a host or a guest proposes an album to be flawless. We discuss it, having listened to it for weeks in advance, and then either unanimously agree that it is flawless or just have a good chat about it. So we have a Facebook group, Flawless Family and Friends. The link is in the show notes. And we announce in advance which albums we're covering. We also have a Patreon, and from as little as $1 a month, you'll get bonus episodes, links in the show notes as well. You can find us on patreon.com/flawlessamp. Now, today is an exciting day because we have a guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I would love to introduce
Please.
myself. Hi, everyone. I am Emma Dean. I'm a musician from Brisbane and a choir director.
How good.
And I'm a life coach in training currently.
We're all going to be much better people at the end of this
Absolutely.
episode.
Never in doubt. And you've got a very, I would say, well-known album you'd like to pitch. Would you like to tell us what album we're going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about Jagged Little Pill by the one and only Alanis Morissette.
Do I stress you out? My sweater is on backwards and inside out, and you say, how appropriate. I don't want to dissect everything today. I don't mean to pick you apart, you see, but I can't help it.
Nice.
Yes, we are.
Ooh, yeah, you
Thank
did.
you.
She went there. She went there.
Yeah.
Back to 95, which is one of the best years of music. 94 and 95, I think, in my opinion. And yeah, you brought Alanis Morissette.
I sure did.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
How did you first encounter this album? Did you get it when it was released? Was it like a day one purchase, or you've encountered it since then?
No. Do you know, I was really late to the game.
Really?
I reckon I discovered Alanis Morissette. I knew who she was, of course, but I really got into this album in the early 2000s. So I was a good, 5, 6, 7 years late. And then I just fell in love. Maybe this was a particularly angsty period in my life and I needed, a bit of Alanis.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice.
So did someone introduce you to it, or did you just hear some songs on the radio and you thought, I'll go and check that out from 7 years ago?
Yeah, that's a really good question. All I remember is being in the car with my mum and I just bought the album. And I'm not sure what inspired me to go out and buy it, 7 years after it was released.
And a couple of albums in between, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
She's moved on.
she's moved on.
But has she?
But I
She got
hadn't.
happier, not going to lie.
Yeah.
She
thanked
did.
India.
She did.
Cool song.
So good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I just remember driving with my mum and just blasting Jagged Little Pill and going, where was I in 95, 96? Like,
Yes.
seriously, I missed out. This is awesome.
And how did your mum feel about Alanis blasting out of the car stereo?
I think she
was okay?
approved.
Nice.
I think she did.
That
Cool
is
mum.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool mum, exactly.
Cool, Mum.
So, 2000, and were you going through a period of,
Yeah.
on reflection, like a breakup or bad things happening, or?
I must have been. It
general.
would have been when I was studying at the Conservatorium of Music. So I was
Yes.
studying jazz voice
Here in
No,
Brisbane.
nice.
here in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And I think I was just really interested as well in female vocalists.
Okay.
So I love Alanis's voice. I think it's really unique and distinctive. But yes, I was probably going through a series of breakups at the time. There were probably multiple breakups.
Was it always musicians?
Sadly, yes.
Oh my God,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Did
And
they
I
write songs for you? Because that happened.
I generally wrote songs for them.
For them.
Very angsty songs. And this is probably why I was so
Oh,
drawn. I
because-
needed that inspiration.
Yeah.
to,
Sure.
You needed that
to like,
draw.
yeah.
Nice.
Grant,
Yes.
you said a well-known album. So does that mean that knew Alanis Morissette and you knew this album.
I knew this album very well.
Yeah.
So this one did make it to East London, South Africa, and in particular Grahamstown, regional Eastern Cape of South Africa. It was a staple certainly in my last year of school, which was 96. Definitely heard it full tilt. And she's an unhappy girl, and she says, and she swears on albums, and it's like, well, that's cool, you know. Like, really, like this chick's, and you know, was it Ryan Reynolds? Is it that really broke her heart? And you know, you don't have the internet, so you sort of like, who's she writing about? Who really broke her? And I want to know. And so, yeah, very well known.
Very well known. And Liam.
In South Africa.
Yeah. I'm assuming you knew.
I knew of her. This was pre my musical awakening and coming to actually listening to proper music. But I was listening to pop radio at the time, and it was all over pop radio. And I had MTV with Foxtel or whatever pay TV we had, and it was all over MTV, all the different clips that she had. So I don't think I'd never listened to the album in full, but listening to it now, I'm like, I know all these songs because there were 6 singles released from the album. So I was like, I know this album. This is like it's nice and comfortable. So,
I just so love it when I know more about an album or have listened to it more than Liam. It just
so you had actually listened to the full album?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
nice.
slipping. I didn't need to listen to this much at all. I'm like, I nearly know. I'm actually surprised. I thought about nominating this myself. Actually. So
There you go.
There you go.
Cool.
so no, I knew this very, very well.
Yeah.
Played this a lot
George,
at school.
Hello.
did you know this album?
Do you think I know this
I
album?
think you did.
Did you own this album?
Do you think I own this album? Do you think I bought it the day that I heard You Ought to Know?
Yeah.
When I first saw You Ought to Know on TV, on MTV, I was 10. They had to mute the swear word, and she's running around a desert, pissed off at an ex, and I was there, like, enraptured at 10 years old, because I was listening to, like, Garbage and stuff as well, and I was like, I'm all about empowered women getting pissed at men. So, so I saw it on MTV and just went straight to my... over in the UK, Woolworths was a bit like a big W. So I went to it. So it's like the opposite way around than Australia. So in the UK, I went to Woolworths where it had a CD section, and I went and found it, and it had the advisory explicit lyrics on it.
What a nice stamp that was.
That just guaranteed I'd buy it, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, yes.
But it meant that I wasn't allowed to buy it because I was only 10. So my mother had to come with me and buy the album. So, so my mother and I went to Woolworths and we bought the album and I put it on and I listened to it constantly for, I don't know.
In record or CD or tape in those days?
CD.
Compact
CD.
disc.
Thanks for clarifying. Yes, it wasn't compact disc, so I bought it. So I was on the bandwagon the moment, because she released the album, but then released the single after the album. So usually you release
It's
the single.
usually the other way around, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I didn't know of her until You Ought to Know came out, and it was on MTV, and I was just like, you're my woman, you're my go-to. And so I went and bought the CD. It was in my collection. I've still got the CD. It's back in the UK in the big box. So there you go.
Nice.
Wow.
So, Emma, having listened to this album, did you then follow Alanis, all the other albums she released, and get involved, or was this really sort of like a one and done?
I
One
didn't.
album wonder.
Yeah. I really, I definitely like a lot of her other songs. And she's just released an album, hasn't she?
Yeah, I think in the last couple of years.
Yeah. So I listened to a bit of that as well, and I really liked and appreciated some of the music on that. But really, this album spoke to me, and maybe it was just a timing thing.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it's the one that stuck.
Yeah.
She was just a bit too cheerful on the other one.
Just a bit too happy.
Yeah, fair enough. That's nice. But there are some cheerful songs on here.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Hand in My Pocket and Ironic and stuff. They're chipper. And even All I Really Want, the opener. Yeah. That's a good one. So that was a great one. That was her 6th single. So she didn't release that until November 96.
Yeah, so a year and a half worth of singles.
Yeah. Wow. Well, worth it. So this is her 3rd album too.
Which I did not realise. When I was sort of doing a little bit of research about the album, I had no idea that she was a bit of a bubblegum pop singer before this
They
album.
were released while she was still in high school.
Yeah.
The first two albums.
Unreal.
Well, because
This
she was
song-
only 17 and 18 when she wrote this album, I think, wasn't she?
19.
Sort of 18, 19?
The 18, 19 when she moved from Ottawa to Toronto.
Right.
And that's when she joined Glenn Ballard
Yeah.
to do the collaborations
Yeah.
and create this album.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't believe that this 18, 19-year-old was coming out with lyrics and melodies in the way that she was. And the way that she would often record is she would have the lyrics and she knew what she wanted it to sound like. And she would just record the vocal line into the mic and then get the musician to come in and record their parts after she's already recorded the vocal.
Wow.
Which is why she ended up with people like Dave Navarro and Flea
I saw that.
from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
How cool is that?
Yeah, I know.
So good.
So that was awesome. So there's a whole bunch of
Only on You Ought to Know. Just on the
On-
they didn't do the
yeah.
whole album. Just that one. It's just that one song.
yeah,
One
worth
song.
it though.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
But yeah, they talked about on that song recording to her vocal, like using her vocal track as the line to then make stuff up behind it.
So
Which-
impressive.
Yes, it's awesome and it's so quotable. But the bass licks on that one are a testament to Flea, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're him. Yeah. They're
Yeah, what he wrote is just absolutely bloody awesome on that track.
Totally.
But
So the two Sugar Pop albums came out in 91 and 92. So she would have been 14, 15 when they came out, when she recorded them and she put them out. So there's tracks in here where she's obviously talking about men that she's encountered. And it's like, okay, so a 14 and 15-year-old girl was in the music industry. Do we think men took advantage of that? Okay, 100% we do.
Yeah.
And she's used that as the source material,
Yes.
the grind for this album, which is,
Yeah.
and she even talks about the hangers-on and like the
Yeah,
guy that
yeah.
takes advantage and staring at her ass and stuff. Because her first album actually went platinum in Canada,
Right.
Oh
like
my
when she was
gosh.
like 14, which is
Had no idea.
ridiculous.
And you can find some of it on YouTube. Like there's a,
Okay.
I watched a very interesting music video with Alanis, who has a perm, an 80s perm.
Nice.
Totally different style, but still her voice is Alanis. Like,
Yeah.
And
It's
this
really
has
interesting.
got 33 million copies worldwide. Oh, wow. It charted in the top 10 in 24 different countries and was number 1 in 14 of them. So that's
The stats are just crazy.
wow.
absolutely, which is bloody awesome. So for a woman that was writing it at 19, I think by the time she was 20, 21 when it actually came out, and then it just blew up.
Yeah.
Which is great. Which
Yeah.
is why she probably suddenly became very grateful and writing songs about thank you
Yeah.
because she was living the high life.
Yeah.
So when you were listening to it, you're obviously talking about angsty. What grabbed you? Obviously, you ought to know, but yeah.
That was the first track that really grabbed me. But then, I mean, I was in love with so many of the songs. And I feel like this album, it's like, you know, a lot of the songs, yes, they're angsty, but there are these like palate cleansers all the way through, you know, these slightly happier songs that kind of allow you a moment to shake off the angst before like jumping right back into it. Which I love. I love that in an album. I love an album that kind of takes you on a bit of a journey that's not one note or one dynamic. And I think that's the beauty of this. You know, there's definitely a theme throughout, but there are highs and lows and, you know, it ebbs and flows and
It's not all bad.
it's not all bad.
It's not all good.
It's not exactly. I love that. So I think as someone who I love creating live shows and I love the art of writing a set list. That is something I adore because I think there's a real craft to it. And that's what I think is quite flawless about this album, the way that it is crafted and the song order, I think is just brilliant.
Yeah.
In your know, I wrote down 3 different sets of lyrics because I got really excited about it. Just because there's all those oohs and ahs that she does. that basically the whole thing is quotable.
Yes, isn't it great?
Oh, I know. So there
I
is
didn't write any down. I was like, these are just all good.
there is just one lyric of,
I know the version of me. Is she perverted like me? Would she go down on you in a theater? Does she speak eloquently? And would she have your baby? I'm sure she'd make a really excellent mother.
Brilliant.
absolutely. And every time you speak her name, does she know how you told me and hold me until you died? Well, you're still alive.
So good.
And every time I scratch my nails down someone else's back, I hope you feel it. Well, can you feel it? I'm like, oh, listen to that. Like, just the amount of times. Like, the problem I had is no one had ever broken my heart. Like, I was 10.
Well, you were 10, yeah.
I was 10. I'd had boyfriends, but I'd always broken up with them. But like, wow, like 10, yeah, of course.
I started later.
Just think about how old your kids are.
Maybe George
Grant.
started early.
I did start early. I was kissing boys when I was like 2 as a toddler. But then I've actually never had my heart broken. I'd always been the breaker-upper. So I love the song and I'll sing along with it. And I'm like, oh, I fucking wish I could relate. I love the lyrics so much, but I've never let anyone get close enough to me that they can break my heart.
You were 10. Close enough to
Even now, no, but even to this day, I still won't. So that was just really cool. But it's a bloody good song.
It is such a good song. There is one line in it that I thought was something else for a very long time. She talks about the cross I bear that you gave to me. Yeah. I thought she was singing the cross-eyed bear that you gave to me, like a teddy bear.
Like a toy or something, yeah. Nice.
And I just have this image of like this boyfriend giving her a cross-eyed bear.
Yeah.
And she,
how's that fit in? Yeah.
so weird.
That's funny.
So that was the one that Dave Navarro and Flea did, and they'd apparently they had her vocal line, they did a version, and they all sat down and they were like, we haven't nailed it, so they just went away and they just kept jamming the two of them. So once you've got that vocal line, if it's just the two of the great players in the industry, you can just jam around until you find something. Oh my gosh. And then it's almost like the guitar line is like, it's kind of cool, but it's not till the very end, where right over the end of the little chorus, there's like this little mini guitar riff in there that you can just get like, that's Navarro. I can see him just like thrashing that out, really strangling it. It's really cool.
Very cool.
So what other song jumped out at you?
So many. Let me just look through. I love You Learn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a great song. I also love Head Over Feet as a bit of a kind of love song, a positive love
It is a
song.
positive love song.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You've already won me over in spite of me.
Yes.
Grant is definitely quoting these lyrics without looking. He knows.
Yep.
I didn't make notes in this because I know that. I was 16, 17, and I also hadn't had my heart broken yet. I mean, that would come. Yeah. But that was a nice one though. Head Over Feet's a cool.
Hey,
cool
Grant.
one. Yes.
Don't be surprised if I love you for all you are.
Yeah.
I couldn't help it. It's all your fault.
There
you go.
How good.
And it's really
lovely.
simple musicianship though.
Yes.
Like it's really pared back and the vocals just lead, which is really nice.
Yeah.
It counters the idea. So if you just heard You Ought to Know, you might think, some man-hating woman she's bitter about everything, whatever,
not.
blah, blah, blah. But she's not. It's just that, she's got both parts,
Absolutely.
that duality of both sides.
And there's
really
a harmonica solo.
Had the harmonica solo down. George is going to love it.
Oh, bloody love a harmonica. Well, she plays it, so
She
as
does.
well, which I love. So, and she's good at it too. So,
And just to briefly go back to You Learn, I mean, this is an 18, 19, 20-year-old lady, and she's singing like she's stoic. And it's like you live, you learn, and she's smiling about that, and like, wow.
Yeah, that was the thing that really struck me all the way through the album. Is like she feels like an old soul.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
She's experienced,
Like an old soul.
which is that same thing of like she's been in the music industry since she was 14 at least. She has experienced all these things that you hopefully wouldn't normally start until like you're a bit older, and then like in your mid-20s or late 20s you're a bit more stoic. But she's just right off the bat.
Well, she started so young,
Yeah.
so I guess. But it's got the aha moment in it, hasn't it, Liam? Where she actually says, "Swallow it down, what a jagged little pill." And so she quotes the title of the album. So that's the aha.
The huzzah moment.
Oh, huzzah.
Yeah, so anytime in an album or a movie where someone says the name of the album or movie, everyone's supposed to go, huzzah!
Oh, right.
But,
okay.
Yeah, so that's the huzzah
That's
moment.
the huzzah moment.
Yeah.
But there's
Assuming the album's not named after one of the songs, and then it just happens all the time. But in this case, yes, that's the point. She sings about it.
And there's a really cute lyric of... And then it ends on her doing lots of
Great track.
yeah, so that's a really nice one.
So good.
And can we address the fact that the elephant in the room is that in no way are any of the lyrics of Ironic actually ironic, and that
Yes.
in itself is ironic.
Some of them are,
Yeah.
but not all of them.
Which one?
Some of the things are ironic.
A black fly in my Chardonnay is just
10,000 spoons
pull
when
up.
all you need is a knife.
It's unrealistic, but it's not ironic. But yeah, so that was the one that was all over MTV. That was the one that was all over the radio. So interestingly, she did really well in the 95 Hottest 100. She got You Ought to Know was number 39. One Hand in My Pocket was 85. And All I Really Want was number 90. But ironic, not in the countdown.
Oh, really?
So I imagine, because I wasn't listening to Triple J until a couple of years later, but I imagine
Right.
Triple J heard that and went, nah, that's too
That's
poppy
too
for us.
poppy.
like they did to Taylor Swift.
We'll let MTV take
it.
care of that one. Yeah.
Right.
Wow, okay.
Because ironic, I assume I did get all the singles, but I assume that was probably the biggest single
I think it was-
chart-wise and the one that most
Probably,
people
I've
would
seen
know.
the video. I saw that.
I know
one
it was
most.
MTV, like all the promos, like the check out MTV promos featured little cuts from that for like 10 years after it was on the air. It was just
She actually
everywhere.
re-recorded for, I think, the 20th anniversary. She re-recorded one where it was actually all ironic lyrics.
Oh,
okay.
yes.
So you can find
she
it
was
on
a good
YouTube.
sport about it.
Oh,
wasn't
yeah,
she?
totally.
Yeah.
But you can find it on YouTube, and it's just her actually saying ironic things, which is nice. But
But it's that same thing again in the clip about her different parts of her personality. So if you haven't seen it, she's driving in a car and it's just her in the four seats of the car, front left, front right, back left, back right.
Yeah.
And the
it's
different
cold.
parts of it, and it's cold, but different parts of her personality sing different parts of the song, and
Yeah.
then they do different things in the car. Like one of them just likes to rug up, and one of them's like leaning out the window, doing stuff, and the other ones are all laughing. And then, but it's that duality, or in that's what quadrality. Like it's
yeah,
all of her music is
All of it,
different parts of her are all coming together to
I
be
love
this one
that.
thing. So which is
Absolutely.
such a good video.
and she sings. You're like, yeah, it does sometimes, doesn't it?
So that kind of ties it back into some of the themes of the album, whereas the lyrics up to that point are just irony things.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, this is actually how this ties into my mental state and that sort of thing. But she also says, speaking about aging really quickly, she talks about meeting the man of my dreams and meeting his beautiful wife. Someone who's like 18 or 19 should not be meeting a dream man who's also married. Like, how old is this guy that he's also married? Like,
At one point, she was married to a producer or something, and he was like 20 years older than her.
yeah,
Oh, right.
So it was
didn't
just
know that.
yeah.
So
I'm not
that must-
surprised there.
Again,
It's not that surprising, I suppose.
like, to be fair, I'm with somebody 19 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was from the age of 13, I would only date people 6 years older or above. Like, you had to
It
be.
was the metric.
That was a metric, yeah. But anyway, she also started life early, so that's probably why she wrote all this poignant
Started
stuff.
laughing.
Yeah, it's got great guitar in that song. Cracking guitar.
That song as well was actually listed as inappropriate after the September 11 attacks because of the lyric, as the plane crashed down, he thought, well,
yeah.
isn't this nice?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting that,
I think I
wouldn't have
remember
thought-
that, actually.
That's like Jimmy World. They had to title their album "Bleed American" because it came out in September, and it came out in August or September, and then they had to take it all back and just rename it Jimmy Eat World. like subtitle
Wow,
because it was, which is. But it still had a track on it called Bleed American. But so there you go. Lots of things were censored after 9/11.
Yeah.
So you talked earlier about arranging a set list. Have you ever seen Alanis live?
No. Can you believe
We
that?
haven't even.
Have you?
I haven't.
I haven't.
No.
No.
I'm
I
not
would
sure how she's
love
come
to
to
see
Australia.
her.
I don't know
I've
if
seen
she's
her
come
on
here.
TV shows performing like on all
Yeah.
those like stuff over in the UK back when I was watching a shit ton of music TV, and she'd do live shows or whatever. And she always puts on. She dances like somebody who has like atrophied limbs. It's really interesting. She flails around like
She
something
sure
wrong.
does, yeah.
But which is interesting to watch. But you're like, are you okay?
Are you actually okay?
I'm genuinely concerned about your well-being right now, but she seems fine. She's doing well, and she is also like nowadays. She also looks incredible. She's found hair straighteners for a start, and because her hair was wild, but she just looks like super happy and fabulous. And I
She's
really
got
like
two
that.
kids, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, and she's just happy being a mum to two kids.
And dipping off royalties.
Yeah, I imagine it's a bit easier to be a mum with two kids when you're
when
still
you-
getting royalties off this album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think she
Absolutely.
went through. I listened. This was a while ago. I'm pretty sure Oprah interviewed her on her podcast.
Yep.
And Alanis went through a very dark time, and it was post Jagged Little Pill. I think she really suffered with some mental illness, and don't quote me on this, but maybe addiction. But anyway, she went through a very dark period and has come out the other side
Yeah.
and looks fabulous and
Yeah.
happy.
That's
Looks like she's happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
loving
That's
life.
awesome. Oh. So, okay, we have to talk about.
Hand in my pocket. Sure.
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
What do you want to know?
That's my wife's favourite song we found out yesterday on this album. We were driving around yesterday listening to it. She started singing along. She's got this album from ages ago in a box, buried down in a box somewhere. And she said she used to love, this was her favourite one. And we were just driving around. She just started singing along to it. It's like,
And its
so
second
nice.
single, in complete contrast to You Ought to Know, was the first single. And then she releases Hand in My Pocket, and you're like, oh, okay. You're versatile. That's nice. But yeah, it's really kind of 90s poppy.
So 90s.
So sweet.
I was just like, ooh, getting those 90s goosebumps. Like they fed the drums and guitar through a bit of a fuzz pedal and drum machine sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And she says that I'm short, but I'm healthy. I'm like, there are so many times I want to say that to people. They're like, you're short. And I'm like, I'm short, but I'm healthy.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah.
And I love the delivery of that line, because doesn't she do a little cough after?
Oh, maybe.
I think it's a really theatrical vocal performance. Like,
Nice.
yeah.
And there's another harmonica solo, just putting that out there, which I really like.
Yeah.
But so it's like her vocals are like conversational in the verse, but then in the chorus, it's really singing and wailing, isn't it? She's just all over, which is great. And it sounded like the guitar had a bit of like a wah-wah noise or something on it, which is also another layer to add to a really lovely song. But the drums are very simple.
And the lyrics, she uses a poetic technique called rhyme juxtaposition. So as an example, when she sings fine, 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 that line could be rhymed with a peace sign, but then a peace sign, oh, sorry, I just hit the microphone.
No, you're good.
A peace sign comes later, and I think they use high five instead of a peace sign. So it's like this really interesting technique where you think she's going to rhyme, but she doesn't quite.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
She's lighting a cigarette.
She says,
Yeah.
giving a high five,
Yeah.
flicking a cigarette, giving a peace sign, playing a piano, hailing a taxi cab.
Yeah.
That's the end of all of the ones where you think it's going to be the same as before, and it catches me out every time.
Yeah. And I love
despite-
that.
Lovely.
I love that.
I know.
It's
I've
unpredictable.
listened to this album since I was 10, and I still can't get them in the right
Well,
order.
she changed it. Oh, no, but she changed. It's Alanis. She changes it on the.
She
every
changed it
time.
on the CD.
Yeah, each time.
That's
You
fair
can't
enough.
learn that because she changes it. Okay, that's what she does.
Oh,
She's that good.
And then she sings, I'm wrong and I'm sorry, baby.
Oh.
that's just, I'm going to do that next time I piss off my partner. I'll be like, I'm wrong and I'm sorry, babe. I'm just going to do that. And
Totally.
just
Forgiven.
I'll just confuse him into forgiveness.
Yes.
I think that would be great.
Yes.
This one's got that contrasting that I talked about. It's all the dualities. I'm this, but I'm that. And a lot of the times they're different, but then sometimes they're not different. So it makes you think about whether or not they're actually different. So it's like,
I'm sad, but I'm laughing. I'm brave, but I'm chicken shit. I'm sick, but I'm pretty. Baby.
and it's like sick and pretty. They're not opposites, but it makes you think they might be if you like. It just requires you to do a bit more of a deep think into it, which is really cool.
Yeah. She's a great lyricist, isn't she? And again, just like, how is she writing in this way when she's so young?
Yeah.
You have to just constantly remind yourself how young she is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
and yeah,
That was the hit that got to certainly I was aware of first. I didn't
Okay.
or to know.
right.
in my
Oh,
pocket.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Really cool. That was my first introduction.
But the Hand in My Pocket is perfect, which comes after You Ought to Know, and then it's this solemn, soft number about like pushy parenting, and it made me think to myself, well, she was 14 on her first album.
Yeah.
And she was a child star
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
she
In
was
Canada.
like 10 years old on You Can't Do That on Television. Again,
Okay.
I had no idea about
Yeah.
that. So she was even younger.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
it's got things like I'll live through you, make you what I never was, and all that. And then she finishes it on
We'll love you just the way you are. If you're perfect.
Lyric buddies. I got
Yeah.
that one down. So we're lyric buddies if we write down the same lyric
Oh,
for
cute.
the song. So yeah, lyric buddies on that. Yeah,
their
just
body. Yeah. But like, so she does like 4 verses pretty much, like all pieces. But on the 4th one, that's where it gets really visceral. And then before she goes into the huge shouty push of I'll live through you. Like, it's just, she's like singing it softly, 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 and then getting more aggressive. Which is just thought was like a really good escalation in that song.
I also love Right Through You that comes right after One Hand in My Pocket. So just feels directed at men, but also record label men very much. So
Yes.
it's just like just another short one, and it's got
You took me for a joke. You took me for a child. You took a long hard look at my ass and then played golf for a while. You shake us like a fish. You pat me on the head. Took me out to wine dine 69, but didn't hear a damn word I said.
Yes.
Lyric
so
buddy.
Lyric buddies with
nice,
me too.
awesome. Just so like a perfect encapsulation of like
What a
a
summary.
record label bringing someone on and they're just not paying attention. Some dude just going, I'm going to manage your career and we'll do this, and some just not paying attention to what she's saying.
And
Yeah.
just like treating her like a
So-
little object, like a
Yeah.
sexual object.
But like your shake is like a fish, so like your handshake,
Yeah.
like just your masculinity is not what you think it is because you've got this weak ass handshake that's like limp like a fish. Like
Yeah.
cool.
And it's got, but like it starts with the sweet strummed kind of sliding guitar, and then the guitar goes all wailing by the chorus with the drum banging about, which is really nice. So yeah, it was it was a really nice progression from the origin of the beginning of the song to get to her getting really pissed at these guys. Which, but the music followed that journey. So yeah, that worked really well.
It was all very it was all very 90s, like soft verses, big power rock, wailing choruses, grungy sort of stuff. All the way through the album, there's lots of tracks that do that and
Yeah,
follow that
totally.
pattern, which is cool.
Yeah.
And it's a real testament to the musicians who she was working with to be able to interpret her lyrics and follow along emotionally, with them, take the listener on that journey with her words. I think I didn't realize that that's how the songs were written, and I think that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her and Glenn Ballard recorded all her vocal tracks together. And then also mostly they do like these 10 to 12 hour sessions that to write one song. And then they'd use those demos to write the music against it. But then they end up, in most of the cases, they end up using that vocal track they'd done the first time. Like they didn't redo, like 1 or 2 takes on the vocals, and that was it. She just nailed it every time. And they used those very first ones. Because you think, I'm recording music myself, but you think even in that model, if you do then do the music, you might go, oh, now I'll re-record the vocal because I think I can tweak this little bit, or the music will work this way. But no, they were just like, no, she's nailed it. You guys sort out what you need to do behind it. Drum machines, keyboards, guitars, all that sort of stuff, because we've nailed it. We're done.
There was 13 different musicians.
There was heaps of people working on
10
this.
engineers, mixers, or mastering.
I couldn't believe that when I read the credits.
Yeah.
Just the amount of people behind the scenes.
And there was someone called a Japanese man called Yota Yashiki who played a groove activator on All I Really Want.
What is that?
A groove activator is a loop-based electro machine where you can partner it with a drum machine or a synthesizer and create like a loop pattern to it.
Would it now be called just a loop pedal,
No,
do you think, or it's a different thing?
It alters the sound, I think, too.
Oh, okay.
So it like changes the actual like timbre of the sound of it. But so I had to look it up, but because they would have had loop pedals back there that they could have, any of the guitarists could have used. But this is a very specific one that's linked to usually a synth or a drum machine. So
But All I Really Want that he did that on does have like a really drummy, electric sounding percussion stuff, so I can understand where that.
Yeah,
I can feel that.
Because the drums kick in with really nice. But yeah, that's really cool. Because on All I Really Want, there's loads of ahas and stuff like that. Another harmonica solo as well, which is just, I love it. I love how much she plays harmonica because she's good at it, which is cool. So, and she also sings, I'm frustrated by your apathy. And why are you, she sings, why are you so petrified of silence? Here, can you handle this? And then actual silence.
Yeah.
And
Genius. Love it.
so smart.
Stops on a dime.
Yeah.
It's so clever. And then it all just kicks straight back in. Did you think about your bills, your rent, deadlines?
But yeah, just her vocals all the way through the album are just, like you said, they're unique. They're just like guttural, but also soft. And when it's like she's super angry, but not like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, like not wildly out of control angry, like an anger that I'm still like looking.
Still controlled.
Yeah, it's all the way through. And like you said, even for a third album, to be something so different to what you've done before is amazing.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And I love hearing that she recorded most of those vocal takes in 1 or 2 takes.
Yeah.
Because I think so often these days, when everything is auto-tuned and, you know, singers can kind of have 100 takes and everything's so perfect. One of the things I love about this album, and lots of albums from that time period, is that it's not perfect. You know, the vocal delivery is not perfect, but that's what makes it so cutting. Like, my heart feels every word. Yeah.
Because it really hits you when she's like, we've had Head Over Feet, which is the love song, and then she drops down to the solemn Mary Jane. Like guitar picking, really simple bass. The drums sound almost like military drum, like
marching drums.
And she softly does vocals and then belts out bridge and choruses. So I think that's just a really nice thing. And she does really soprano ooze. So she's a mezzo soprano, so she can do alto and soprano. And she shows it like throughout this album. Like she'll do some depth and then she'll bring it all the way up to the soprano, which is nice. And then it's really nice when she does things.
You're the sweet crusader, and you're on your way. You're the last great innocent, and that's why I love you.
And she wrote that song about a friend of hers who was so sweet and giving, but went home at night, and was really, depleted. And it's kind of a song about self-care. And she would listen to that song when she was on tour, imagining that, someone else was singing those words to her, which I thought was like, Alanis.
Jeez.
That's like like affirmation.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because she's concerned about her, and she says, "I hear you're losing weight again, Mary Jane. Do you ever wonder who you're losing it for?"
Yeah.
You're like, it's just a really nice look at a friendship of somebody that she clearly cares about and loves, and she worries about, and just it's really sweet. And I used to listen to it in that affirmation kind of way back when I was 10. I used to be like, I was treating it like Alanis did. So yes.
I also like Not the Doctor. Got the drum machines, like the soft acoustic plucking at the start, and then it punches into a grungy chorus, which is so cool. But talking about like not being here to fix you or to solve you or to, I don't want to be your idol or anything. And she talks about,
I don't want to be the sweeper of the eggshells that you walk upon, and I don't want to be your other half. I believe that 1 and 1 make 2. I don't want to be
lyric buddies.
Nice.
Yeah,
I've always hated that phrase, your other half. Like it's not about a half and a half make one person together. It's like, no, it's 1 and 1 person. We are complete people all by ourselves. The fact that we happen to be together is not fixing each other or completing each other. It's just 2 people who are together.
And I like that she's like setting the boundaries of a relationship.
Yeah.
So, like she's like, the whole premise is, okay, if we're going to be this thing, this is the kind of stuff we need to be.
Yeah.
Because I can't, I'm not giving up my identity.
It took me 36 years to figure that out, and here she is at like 17. It's amazing. Yeah, I love the guitar in this. I love the rhythm and the groove.
Nice. Yeah.
And it's great.
It
One
is.
of my faves, I think.
I wrote down it was funky, but her vocals are kind of nasal on that one as well. But it works really well in the way that she's singing. So yeah, that's cool.
Cool.
So,
any other songs, Emma, that we haven't sort of, any other thoughts on those we haven't touched on already?
No, I think those were the main ones.
well, we didn't get to Wake Up, though.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like the penultimate of the album, but it's kind of like the ending, but not the ending of the album. So, so in that, she sings.
There's no sentimental value to the rose that fell on your throne. There's no fundamental excuse for the granted I'm taking for.
I remember hearing that and just going.
Yeah, at some point, George, you and I should just not be on the podcast together because we just write down the same things all the time. So I got that same lyric down as well. It's like,
But I remember thinking to myself, she's empowering me. Like I'm 10 and, like dating and like I've got, and also not even just with dating, but with friendships, there's no excuse for the granted I'm taken for. It's like, and also relationships with adults. So like, it was just like empowering me as a young person to say, no, I can stand my ground because there's no excuse, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, good for her. She empowered me. But we have to get to your house.
sure, go for it.
We have to get to your house because that's probably one song that I've sung the most on my own in the shower. The a cappella secret track at the very end.
Oh my God. And do you know what? I didn't even write that down in my notes.
Yeah.
Do you need to?
Really cool.
I've never sung in the shower,
What?
but
I have a podcast actually called Stories from Shower Singers.
Nice.
That is my podcast.
There you go. Grant can't be on it, apparently.
Yeah.
Can't be on
well,
it.
not
I'm
to
so
sing
sorry.
a cappella, Alanis, Your House.
I
Not
have
that
different
one.
playlists depending on my mood when I'm in a shower to sing along to. So, yeah,
yes.
I have a 300 playlist.
For those who are looking at it on Spotify, you will have to go to the end of the 13th track. It's
Yes.
hidden. It's hidden away back there, so
Yeah.
you won't see it in
A couple
the
of
track
minutes
listing.
in between.
Yeah,
bit of a
so
blank space in
the
between.
Jimmy the Saint blend of You Ought to Know is on, so that's like the more metal version of You Ought to Know. And then there's about 4 minutes, and then Your House a cappella comes in. So in total, it's an 8-minute track. But yeah, Your House is a cappella, and it's all about her going into her partner's apartment without him knowing she shouldn't be there, and sneaking around and laying in his bed and running a bath and doing all those things, and wearing his robe, and then she finds a letter that says about "I love you, meet me at midnight," and then she sings "It wasn't my writing," and then you're like, oh my goodness. Like the first time you're like, oh my goodness, it's not her writing. So she's like, I've got to leave now. And then she says, will you forgive me, love, if I cry in your shower? And you're like, oh my God.
How old is this song? This is so
old soul. Really like,
wow.
But like at one point she refers to like, went down to the den, found your CDs, and I played your Joni, and I shouldn't stay long. You might be home soon. Shouldn't stay long. So she's like making herself at home, listening to Joni Mitchell, and like that's ominous in itself. So then going from Joni Mitchell to finding this letter and crying in his shower, and there are so many times I've sung that in the shower. It's so good. It's such a, like, as an ending, because like on my CD player, back when I had this, I'd have to wait like 6 minutes and then get to that and then like play it. And so what I did was I waited 6 minutes, then I set it to record on a tape player, and then I had it on a tape, and then I recorded it again, and then I recorded it again. So it just meant that I had one side of a tape just with Your House a cappella on one side of a tape. So I could
such is your commitment.
That was my commitment. So that was 45 minutes on that set.
But tell me you didn't sing 45 minutes in the shower. I mean, come on.
No, I don't take that long.
Okay. So the water bill would be horrendous. Yes. And you're in the UK and it's cold. And your folks are like, why is the water bill so low? Okay.
It's just really important that we touched on that song, because I think it's very good.
Cool.
Amazing.
Anything else you wish to add, or Liam, or George?
I was just going to quickly throw in that there's a Jagged Little Pill musical.
Yes, there is.
Australian production opened in Sydney's Theatre Royale in December 2021. Supposed to be coming to Melbourne's Comedy Theatre in January 2022.
Yes.
So someone took a bunch of the songs, put a character in the middle and sings most of them, and then rearranged it all around. I think Alanis helped out, but then Diablo Cody, did I read that somewhere? Actually put it together, I think.
It's very...
And the musical was nominated for 15 Tony Awards.
Wow.
Incredible.
Which is like, that's like Hamilton or something. That's ridiculous.
It's arranged, like the vocal arrangements and the music is arranged really beautifully. From what I've heard. I've heard bits and pieces, and I think it's...
Are we going to Melbourne together?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Let's do it.
Totally.
Let's go to Melbourne together. We'll get an Airbnb. We'll go and watch Jagged Little Pill the musical.
That'd be amazing.
Okay, done.
There you go.
Cool.
Final pitch, if you don't mind, on Jagged Little Pill.
Oh my gosh.
Why is this album flawless?
Why is it flawless? Okay,
Yes.
I think it is a beautifully put together album featuring songs of all different colours, light and shade. I think it speaks to the angsty teenager. I think it speaks to the angsty person of any age and any gender, but particularly the angsty woman in me. I think it is musically brilliant. Every song has a singable melody. I can, go away and sing all of these songs, which I think is very, very rare. I think the musicianship is outstanding. The lyrics are poetic, and it is ordered in such a way that takes the listener on a really special journey. So for that reason, I think Jagged Little Pill is flawless.
Nice.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
There you go. Well done. Over to you, George.
Hello.
What are your thoughts on this album that you used to listen to when you were 10?
When I was 10. Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, 10.
So you know that I was in muso growing up. And
Aren't you still a muser?
well, I'm still a muso, but I
I'm
don't.
looking, there's a Fender guitar over in the corner, so
There's a piano.
I've got 4
basses
guitars and a vinyl collection.
So
And
that's all the past now. You say you were a muser when you were 10.
no,
but
I'm
this
saying
is
that I
like furniture now.
I struggled to listen to a lot of new music. I think that's why
Okay.
I'm no longer in music. Unless I come across it, if I'm going to a bar, which I'll often do, so I'll get dressed up and go into Fortitude Valley in Brisbane, and I'll go and sit in a bar, like a dive bar, and I'll drink bourbon and by myself, wearing a band shirt, skinny jeans, big boots, the whole thing, just like Jessica Jones from the TV show and the comic book. But I'll go, and sometimes there'll be live music, and I'll happen across some little gems. Like there's a band called Monsters Up North who I found in Brisbane. Like I was about to leave a bar because the music was so shit, and then there was a band started playing and they sounded like Cursive, and I went, I'm stopping for this. And then I bought another drink, watched a band, talked to them afterwards, bought a shirt. So that's like the only time I've come across new music. So that's why I'm no longer in music. But when I was younger, You Ought to Know came out, and I was like, yeah, this is incredible. I don't know who you are. This young woman is so empowered to shout at her ex. And I was just like desperate to have a shitty ex that I could shout at. It was just so awesome. So obviously, as I said, I went and bought the album, and I played it on like repeat rotation for years and years. Probably left it for a while. At one point, I couldn't listen to Ironic or Head Over Feet because it was just like I'd heard them so many times on the radio. Like it was just immersive therapy. Or Hand in My Pocket as well. So when it was nominated, I was like, I am ready to get back into this album, because as soon as you nominated it, Emma, I was like, I've got all the songs in my head already. And I've like, when I hear a song in my head, I can hear every instrument and every layer of that song, and it's just there for me. So it's beautiful. And so I listened to it once and went, I love this so much, but is it like my hormones talking, being like a young person? And then I listened to it for what it is, and it's actually an incredibly well put together cast of 13 musicians and 10 engineers, with Alanis doing some of the most incredible vocals I've ever heard on any album ever, with some of the most insightful, incredible lyrics that I think I could imagine listening to. So there is not one song I would skip. There's no movement. I think it does take you on an ebb and flow. I really like the Jimmy the Saint version of You Ought to Know at the end. I think it's like an interesting thing to do, like to top and tail with your own, with a single. And then finishing on Your House was just incredible. So for that, obviously, I'm going to say it is flawless.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks
Well
for the
done.
thanks for the opportunity.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And over to you, Liam.
cool.
Your thoughts, final thoughts.
I was struck when I first listened to this album about how 90s it is. Like, there's all the drum machines. It's very grungy.
Yeah.
It's, it goes up and down, up and down. I also thought it was interesting. We talked about like duality stuff. Is like every time if you picked one song, like You Ought to Know, crazy man-hating woman. But then there's lots of other examples through the album where she's not that.
Head over feet.
And then, and then like Ironic is like, more blah, blah pop stuff. But then there's lots of stuff through the album. So no matter what criticism you could level at her based on one song, she counters it already in the album. So there's lots of little pieces that really work together, and I was really loving it. But I got to the end and I didn't need another version of You Ought to Know. The album has a perfect finished song with Wake Up, and the album has another perfect finished song with Your House. And if Your House was attached to Wake Up, that's okay too. So it could finish on Wake Up, or it could finish on Wake Up with Your House as a secret track. But I don't need You Ought to Know in between. And if I was listening to it on a CD, and it was thought, I saw it and I was like, oh, well, that's okay, because in the official edition, it won't be that. That'll be like some special Spotify bonus track that they've thrown in there. And when I looked up, like, no, the album was released with that second version of a song on it. And I'm like, it didn't need it. So if I really wanted to just cut that, and I would probably skip it. which means I'd miss Our House, and so it meant just that didn't nail the landing for me. So for that reason, and just that reason alone, like I said, if either one of them had been the last one on its own, 100%. But with that extra thing in there, I couldn't give it flawless. But
It's a harsh critic.
It was.
He's a harsh man. He's a harsh.
It was
brutal, even I would say.
so. Grant.
Yes.
Final thoughts and a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
I think I've got an idea.
Your final thoughts. Note 3.
Note 3. Oh, sans notes. Well, they aren't required, are they? So I'd actually neglected to say that my ex had this album as well. So when in my courtship phase, I did go over there a lot in 96, 7, 8, and it was playing. Which is probably the head of a feet thing was apt at the time.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, things work out, right?
And then you moved on to You Ought to Know.
And ironic and whatever. I knew most of the lyrics, or I know I could just about drop them off the top of my head. Loved this album. Looked at this album to pitch it as a flawless album. And you and I are the same because I can't have the second version. It's just really sort of the same with some more bass. Yeah. Otherwise, I loved it. And so very technical, and I'm being like Liam now, but I didn't need that for mine. It's only because they put it in again, and if it was an acoustic or I don't know something else, they changed the order. But it didn't need
it's just
two
like a bit
versions
heavier, isn't it?
Yeah, just there isn't enough there for it.
It seemed a really weird choice to me to just throw an old... I couldn't think of another album like where it's part of the regular track listing. Like, bonus editions, bonus discs, B-sides, all that sort of stuff. But to have two versions of the same song on one album seems super rare.
Yeah. So I loved listening to it again. Thank you very much, Emma.
Pleasure.
It was great, but we didn't get that one across the line. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We have Facebook.
Sorry, before you get going, where can people find out more about your stuff? And you mentioned all your stuff at the start, but not where to find any of it. So where can people find you on your stuff online?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm at Emma Dean Music, or my community choir is Cheap Trill Music, CHEEP, like the bird.
Chickens do.
Nice.
And my life coaching page, it's very new, is just Emma Dean Coaching.
Nice.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well done. Round 2, exiting.
Sorry.
Flawless, guys. Thanks everyone for listening. We've got Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are Flawless AMP on all of those. So you can join the conversation, share or like our posts, or give us a rating. Every little bit helps us find more music lovers like you. As mentioned, we also have a Patreon at patreon.com//FlawlessAMP. If you'd like to back us, please check that out. Don't be shy. We appreciate it. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.